welcome or welcome back to a mindful moment.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
I hate to say this. I feel like I say this all the time, but it's really true. And you know it's true. We're back in a crunch. So like work gets kind of under control and then it just feels like it blows up and it's out of control. And I guess most people experience that. I don't know, but I just feel like somehow because we're mindful, we should be able to avoid it. And there's no avoiding it. So point being, I've been looking for ways the last few weeks to save time because there's so much work to do and I don't want to work 7 days a week. And there's two things I have to do. I have to every day or I am not a well person. One is meditate, one is walk. And I considered cutting one of them out to save, 20 minutes. And thankfully thought better of it. And instead realized I could just do mindfulness meditation walk. So to combine the two, and I would not promote that as a reason to do a moving meditation. I think it could be beneficial to do a moving meditation for the many people who struggle with sitting still to meditate. But just full disclosure, it also saves me some time. So that's kind of where I wanted to start today. And, mindfulness is just being aware of our thoughts, emotions, feelings, environment, just being really super aware. And so you can really combine mindfulness with meditation, but while moving. And so I thought we could give our listeners today some ideas about how they may want to either try it or mix it up a little if you're getting tired of sitting in stillness. And I do want to say there's nothing wrong with getting tired of sitting in stillness. And there's nothing wrong with those of you who feel like you just cannot do that. We live in a society that does not admire or appreciate stillness in general. It's busy, 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 right? So that's a big leap if you're a very busy person to go to like running 100 miles an hour to full stop. And so maybe a moving meditation might bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah. For me, it's hard for me to find time to solely meditate. And I know that doesn't sound like the most mindful thing, but in a household with children and pets and a husband that works from home, it's trying to find even 10 minutes where I have alone time is very difficult. And so I have always combined my meditation into a moving meditation. I mean, I really don't spend a lot of time of just meditation. A lot of mine is typically moving, which is yoga. And I haven't tried a lot of other forms of moving meditation, so I hope we kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're getting it in, you're getting it in. So even if it is moving, at least you're getting it in.
Maybe for yoga, you could share a little bit about, because there's lots of types of yoga and there's lots of perhaps misperceptions about what yoga is if someone hasn't tried it before. So maybe you could explain that a little bit so that people get a feel for it, if it might be something they want to check out.
Yeah, there are so many different types of yoga. A lot of it you can really do on your own. You don't need to go get a membership and, be in your sports bra and pants at a studio uncomfortable with other people. There's a lot of opportunity to do it on your own. There's a ton of videos. I'll put up one next week for you guys that you can kind of follow along with. But, there is vinyasa yoga, which is all about asana. And asana is basically the movement part of yoga. It's where you're doing poses like warrior pose, tree pose, child's pose, things like that. And vinyasa is where all of those asana are put into a sequence and you're basically, doing it to a music sometimes, or sometimes it's in a hot room like hot yoga. There's also Bikram yoga, which that one is more about like holding a pose for a long period of time, which can be pretty difficult. It is a harder form of yoga.
For some of us.
For some of us. And then there's one of my favorites is yin yoga. Yin yoga is very meditative and it is very slow and it is very relaxed. So typically you're going to do yin yoga either in very dim light with candlelight. Sometimes they use sound bowls, things like that. And that's really about healing. Yin yoga is all about healing and it's about, healing from the inside out kind of a perspective. And I prefer doing more of a vinyasa flow because it's kind of like a mixture of a Bikram pose yoga mixed with the yin yoga. But one thing I will say about yoga, period, and I think I've said this before on the show, is that a lot of people are hesitant to try it because what you see is Instagram yoga. And that's not yoga. I mean, I hate to say it, it is yoga, and I'm not judging the people that do it at all, but it's not all about how flexible you are. And it's not about what a hot body you have. It's not about that at all. And it's just such a dichotomy from what the true purpose of yoga is as to what you're seeing. And I hope people give it a shot, because if you do nothing in a yoga class but lay there and breathe, you're doing yoga. Basically, if you can do nothing else but breathe for an entire practice, you have done yoga perfectly. And if you want to add in the movement, you can. So I just feel like it's a very underrated way to actually meditate. And I think that if you just give it a shot, you'll love it.
I have honestly had yoga pop up as a thing I want to try. I've tried it a couple of times, but literally very minimally. And part of it for me was the concern about flexibility. And the funny thing is, because you don't really have to wrap yourself up as a pretzel, yoga and many of these moving meditations actually increase your flexibility, right? So I have a friend who swears by yoga. She does it every morning, a pretty long session. She has several physical conditions, and she says without the yoga, she's stiff, she's sore, she's miserable all day. So there are many benefits of moving meditations, including yoga. You get all of the benefits of mindfulness, which is the calming of the mind a little bit, at least a little bit, if not a lot, the clarity, the focus. But when you're adding in something physical, then you're getting either, depending on what, like, I'm not talking about hot yoga. That one does not appeal to me. Honestly, I know you're great at it, but and for our listeners who don't know, you are a yoga instructor, so
yes.
I trust what you're saying, that it's really great, but just doesn't sound appealing to me. But regular yoga does.
I mean, really, the purpose. So it's funny because a lot of people that I've spoken to that have tried yoga, they end up not liking going to the same yoga class over and over and over again. But there's a reason that you're going to the same one with the same sequence and the same everything every single time. It's so that you do get into that meditative state. So what happens is it's like you've memorized the moves. It's second, nature for your body to go through those motions. And so then you start to focus more on the internal part of your body and, oh, wow, that makes me feel this way. Oh, I don't really like that. I don't want to do that one again. And you don't have to do it. And the thing with hot yoga, it's the same thing. It's that a lot of people say, oh, it's detoxifies and stuff like that, but that's actually kind of a myth. It doesn't really detoxify the body. You're just sweating a lot. But
it should be the part I don't find too appealing.
So the thing is that when you're doing the hot part of yoga, it's that your body is a lot looser. And so it does relax the body more. And you're so focused on the heat, right, that you're not focused on all of the other noise. And so kind of these things are like mechanisms to quiet the mind. And, the hot yoga thing really came more from like the Bikram side of yoga. And that really isn't like a traditional form of yoga. It's just kind of something that's been Americanized and, to get a better workout. But I actually do like the hot yoga, but a regular yoga class is just as good for you.
Excellent. Well, it's interesting because in addition to the physical aspects of moving meditation, so you have flexibility. Some of them actually build strength. Mm-hmm. Some of them can help you improve your balance, for instance. So again, I kind of like the combining thing because the meditative part is always there, because you're just focusing. I mean, that's really the key to it, right? Whether it's on your breath or on what's going on in your body but it also makes it heightens your awareness. I think all of them do. So for me, I started out with, now I'm doing walking. So a walking meditation. And I confess again, I'm guilty of this because one of the things I typically do when I just walk is I listen to a novel, right? So I'm listening to a novel. I'm not paying attention to my surroundings. I enjoy the novel, don't get me wrong, but that's another time saver. I don't have time to read a novel, so I'm listening while I do my walk. But I'm swapping that out to make it really much more a mindfulness meditation while I walk. And it's truly fascinating, some of the things. And, I used to do this quite a while ago. I've just had given it up for a while. But when you are doing a meditative walk, you're again practicing mindfulness, which means paying attention internally and externally. But you can do something like slightly shift the direction your foot is pointing and either completely alleviate, say, knee pain or something, or greatly increase it.
Increase it, yeah.
And if you think about zipping around all day, running around, we're not paying attention. And then at the end of the day, we're like, oh, my back hurts or my leg hurts or whatever. And it's because we're not paying attention as we're moving. So I like the combination of, or sort of like the dual benefit of recognizing my body, because we're all different. So in my case, I have one knee that's bad. It just takes a little tweak and it doesn't hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, it's also the idea of not only am I paying attention to my body, but then I start noticing, especially this last week, we've had the craziest weather here. Here where I live, the temperature difference yesterday from a week ago was 35 degrees cooler. So when it's our poor bodies. But so when you're doing a meditative walk, I mean, I'm hyper alert this week. It's like, oh, I almost feel cold because it's about 62 now when I walk instead of, 92. So I was like, okay. And then what difference does that make on my body? Right. Yeah. So now I try to walk pretty briskly, to get some aerobic in, but I'm not perspiring. So I'm recognizing what my body is doing while I'm walking. So the second benefit is you're greatly strengthening your mindfulness skills because there's a lot going on with your body. And then you add in, I've noticed like we've had beautiful clouds this week so far. And again, when it was 117 here, I couldn't even look up outside, but there was nothing shading anything. So I don't think there were any clouds. So it's like you can appreciate, and the sunrise has been beautiful because I go early. So the sunrise, like the colors. And so you're getting this very rich experience. And honestly, then I'm sorry I have to come back as soon as I do, right, to get to work. But still, at least I got that in the morning before my day gets crazy, that sort of beautiful little snapshot of what's going on internally and externally before I get started.
I think being in touch with your body is not something that we do enough. And I think if we did, the health of our society might be a little different. Moving meditations really kind of force you to be in touch with your body and all of your body, which is a great thing. It's not a bad thing. And I think a lot of people avoid that, to be honest. So I think it's a great way to really start to get in tune with like every little nuance of, like you're saying, you're noticing so many different things about your body. It's such a good way to really stay in touch with your health.
Yeah. Well, about, I don't even know how long ago, for a long time, I'm sure I was oblivious. I just pushed through. And I think that's why so many people ignore it. It's because I don't have time to deal with this little ache or this little pain or whatever it is. But mindfulness itself, and then meditation, even more so, part of the true benefit is reconnecting mind and body. Mm-hmm. But when you add in physical movement, you're like amplifying that factor, which again, most of us don't pay a lot of attention to. And you really can. I mean, I'm not saying, you're going to self-diagnose a disease, but if you start to notice that you get the same pain in the same place every time you move in a certain way, that is like an early warning system. Yep. Where you can probably take care of it without having to, anything major happen, whether it's just stretches or doing different exercises or changing the direction your toes are pointing in. So
it's funny. One thing that yoga did force me to do, and I think forces a lot of people to do if you actually go to a studio to do it, or really even at home, because you really do need to kind of be in front of a mirror so you can see if you're, doing the pose correctly, is to not hurt yourself. But it really does kind of make you appreciate your body. So body positivity is huge. And, for me, we all think something about our body is not perfect, right? It's not great. Oh, I wish it was this. I wish it was that. And with yoga, it was like, wow, I am so strong. It was nothing about how I looked, nothing, and so you really start to appreciate the beautiful parts of your body and how like, I am an amazing human that I am able to do this and I can feel all these things. I think that's another thing that a moving meditation can help you with.
Well, that's a really good point. Mm-hmm. I've noticed my posture is getting terrible. I know why, because I'm
sitting at a desk. I know.
I'm sitting at a desk and I'm leaning and I get tired as the day goes on. I start and I'm feeling it now because when I sit up straight, it's not comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that was not the case before. So another thing I've been toying with that I did, I don't think I've done it in 15 years, but I love both Tai Chi and Qigong. And so for anyone who's not familiar with those, um, Tai Chi is actually a martial art. I mean, it was created as a martial art. Qigong was created as a health system, but they're both really based on the same principles. Qigong took Tai Chi, took some of the stuff from Tai Chi and made it less militarized because a lot of it's
Mm.
very warrior stuff, and just made it more same principles, but it's where you move super slowly, which again, it's the strangest thing. And I can still remember I loved it. It's more time consuming, which is why I haven't done it lately. But it's not like a huge amount of time, but I mean, even an extra 20 minutes a day is right now kind of difficult for me, but it's on my list because as you get into it, it takes a few times because you have to practice. But as you really get into it, we never move this slowly, ever, right? So as you're slowly moving an arm out instead of, quick, you notice the hairs on your arm.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
can feel the slightest change in the air. And so again, it gets you so almost hyper focused on what is happening with my body and the environment around me. And I felt great when I did it before. I didn't go to a class. This was long enough ago. It was actually on a DVD that I
Mm.
followed every day. Super relaxing, increased flexibility, definitely calmed my mind and helped me focus afterwards. And there's a lot of evidence that many of these moving meditations also boost your immune system.
Yes.
So there's not really a downside. It's just prioritizing the time, which is I'm working on that right now.
It's funny you say the slow part of Tai Chi because I think I led Tai Chi for a workshop, right? It was a long time ago, but I led
Yeah,
it for a workshop, and I remember I had to, because I lead yoga classes, which are way different than Tai Chi,
yeah,
and it was really hard for me to go slow because I'm used to
yeah.
kind of moving a little faster with the yoga, and it was like trying to push the air away, and
Yep,
it was
yep.
like, okay, slow down, take a deep breath, like. It was difficult, but I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it.
I do too. And it's really funny because again, it really brings to light just how much we're rushing through life
Mm-hmm.
because it sounds so easy. Oh, and this one also greatly increases your balance because it's not hard poses. There's nothing, you don't have to be super flexible or anything to do
Mm-mm.
it. But boy, do you have to have mind control to go that slowly and to
Yeah, I
keep
don't
your
even know if there's
balance.
a lot of poses where you're even on one foot. I mean, there might be one where you're kind of circling water or something, but I don't think there's a lot where you're even balancing on one foot.
Yeah.
So it's it's
Yeah.
it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that one is at the top of my list to take up again.
Good.
Now, I will say I found one of these, and I don't mean I'm using it like as making fun of anyone. It's just that it reminded me of like in the '60s people on LSD or whatever they're doing. But it's dancing meditations. Well, it's called five rhythms or ecstatic dance,
Uh-huh.
and so it's basically where like whatever the music is that's chosen, but it's pretty wild, and you just allow your body to go in whatever direction it wants to. So it looks like
I've seen several people at concerts doing this, but they're probably having a great time.
well, they might perhaps be doing it based on an outside substance.
Possibly.
And this is really where you're tuning into your body. Now, I don't know that I could do it in a group. I don't know that I would be comfortable enough to do it in a group. You can do it by yourself. But if you love dancing or you love that sort of freedom of movement, that it doesn't have to be slow like Tai Chi. It could be, rocking out to some music, but where there's several kinds, but it's, like you're kind of floppy and you're just letting loose and let
Just
your body.
freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, just total, yeah, free
Free
form, I guess
movement.
is the
Yeah.
way to say it. But anyway, for those of you that do it, I'm sure it's wonderful, and please let us know. But that one did make me laugh when I saw the videos. I'm like, because I'm old enough to remember, not I was too young to actually be doing the dancing, but I remember like seeing things that were not that old. Um, so I was picturing flower power and
Oh yeah.
60s clothing and everything. Um, and then like I started this out, basically anything you do, you can do mindfully, right? So there's a lot of people that now practice either mindful running or mindful swimming. And I'm not a runner, but the mindful swimming sounded appealing to me because I don't know what I think about when I swim, but I don't think I'm being mindful. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of, oh, the water feels good, blah blah. And it was like, oh, you really use a lot of muscles and movements in swimming.
And you're super focused on your breath when with swimming.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I never thought of even combining those two. And then I'm sure for runners, because there's already a runner's high, right? You get the
Mm-hmm.
dopamine, the euphoria if you're really a runner. But if you, and I'll circle back now to the mindful walking. One of the other things that you do in mindful walking is you pay attention literally to every movement. So when you take a step, and I think you've done this with me with workshops. Um, you you're not slowing. You're walking slower maybe than normal when you're doing this, but you're not slowing way down like with Tai Chi or Qigong. But you, instead of just taking a step, you pay attention to the fact that what hits first, your heel, and then is it
Mm-hmm.
the ball of your foot? You know, do you have an arch that doesn't ever hit? Then it's your toes. And you take a few steps like that, and you realize that walking is really not falling. Like if you didn't follow the exact rhythm of what has to happen, you would just fall over.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. But it's
So
because that's
walking is,
second nature to your brain, right? You don't think about that.
yeah, but walking is not falling. I mean, when we're babies, that's exactly what we're doing. We're figuring out how to stop falling, right? So when you start to realize the massive number of bones and muscles and everything working in harmony to prevent you from falling as you move forward, it's kind of fascinating. So I could correlate to that with mindful running because that's even more, right? More exertion and more parts having to work harder to keep you not just from falling, but accelerating your movement. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can see where that might be really appealing to people who already run. But like with the swimming, maybe you never thought of trying to sort of factor in the mindfulness and meditative part of running. Martial arts can be considered a moving meditation. So karate, aikido, and again, it's because you're adding in really with any of these, there's some discipline, but then when it comes to the martial arts, you're really adding in not just focus, but this really heightened discipline to your movements and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All of these, by the way, reduce stress, but something like martial arts also tends to increase your confidence because you're learning something that you know. I mean, it sounds like it has nothing to do with mindfulness, but you know, you could become your own weapon, right? So
Yeah.
it builds self-confidence in that you're learning this skill that could protect you or
Mm-hmm.
spare you, you know, grief or something somewhere down the road. And I think that that's kind of an interesting approach because it sounds kind of counterintuitive to mindfulness, but it's not. It's where you're
It's
just,
a
again,
strength thing. Yeah. Yeah.
right. You're paying close attention to every movement of your body and what impact that is going to have. I had to pay attention to the impact even in kickboxing with the bag, or I would
Mhm.
hurt myself. And again, so it takes that sort of discipline to
Well, and
practice.
karate also is a lot about how much your mind, how much pain is in your mind and not actually in the physical. And
Yeah.
so it helps you to kind of overcome that, the mind over matter kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating because, you know, in mindfulness meditation, and I'm sure everyone listening knows by now that there are so many ways to practice and to build your mindfulness
Yes.
skills. But one of the key factors is getting to that point, which takes time. You know, you have to do it consistently, but getting to the point that you do recognize that physical and emotional pain are really generated in our minds, most
Yeah.
of it. And so for physical pain, there's a lot of meditations where you just hone in on the part that hurts, for example. And if you do it long enough, it dissipates because you start to recognize, like, oh, that's actually not painful. It's cold. Or, you know what I mean? Like you get
Yeah.
down to where you can really identify what's going on again in your body. I didn't know it at the time, but when I used to kayak, it's a
Mm.
very mindful practice. If you're thinking that way, I was more like focusing on not flipping over, but it's like if you really applied mindfulness to it, it would be very meditative. It's very rhythmic. It's very calming. It's
Yeah.
very, you're in nature, right? So you could take really anything that you do, plus any of the things we've talked about here today, but hiking, and again, we all need to move more. Wow, the rates of Americans and our sedentary lifestyle are skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I feel it every day. I have notes all over the place. I have an alarm on my phone, get up, because if you're busy and you have deadlines and a ton to do, it's really easy to just lose your self-awareness and try to plow through the work, and it will catch up to you. Some people can go years before it catches up to them. Some people, like me, all it takes is one day and I can feel it.
Yeah.
So you want to really just make sure that you are moving, but then why not strengthen your mindfulness skills while you're doing it and enjoy the benefits of mindfulness meditation?
Yeah. And if you have any hesitation about trying any of the moving meditations, just try it at home alone, and till you feel the confidence to go do it, maybe with in a group setting, or, even out in public, like something like paddleboarding or something like that. Just try it on your own and see how you feel and see what resonates the most with you. But I really do encourage everybody to try something.
Yeah, I like that advice, because I know for me, because I am not flexible at this point in life because of all this sitting around. I'm not nearly as flexible as I used to be. And I hate looking physically ridiculous. It does bother me. Like, I don't want to look like, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is for it, but I don't want to be the one that falls over in Tai Chi in a class, or, whatever it is. And so when both yoga and Tai Chi, yoga, I'm very self-conscious about because of the flexibility, and Tai Chi or Qigong now, I would be I'd be worried about, especially because here in California, so many people practice it in these beautiful groups out in parks, and it looks like it's choreographed, and I would be the bumbling dancer, that wouldn't be getting it right. So that is how I'm going to start again with the Tai Chi or Qigong. I'm probably going to do Qigong.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I would say for at least for yoga, try to look for if you want to go to a studio, but you have like that hesitation because either you don't have the perfect body that you want, or
I don't have that either.
Whatever it is, look for a donation-based studio. So these are the studios where they don't charge you a membership fee. It's solely based on a donation. Those tend to be the yoga studios that are a little more in line with traditional yoga, where it's not all about being a pretzel. It's not about, the outfit you wore. It's not about the hot part. It's really about the true foundation of yoga. So just try to look for one of those if you want to do it and see if you like it.
Oh, great idea. All right. Well, I'll update you after I get started on the Qigong and let you know what happens. But then I do want to close with just a concept. And the only reason I would push myself to do this uncomfortable thing with other people is that studies show that practicing any kind of mindfulness or meditation in a group is actually much more powerful. The effect that it has on you is amplified. And so I would encourage, whether it's a sitting meditation, a moving meditation, whatever it is, that do it at home first until you're comfortable, and then try doing it in a group, because, and then you've got motivation too. You start to meet new people. There's all kinds of additional benefits.
But we did I'll close after this, but we did in my yoga training with our group, we did a group chant yoga. And it wasn't, crazy chanting. We were just saying Om the entire time. And it was just the very low. And one person would start and then another person would join, and it went in a circle. And the emotion that you could feel in that room and the spirituality part, it was insanity. So it's definitely true that in a group setting, it is so much more powerful.
Yeah, it does. I've done group chanting before too. And my first time, I'm like, oh, brother, like we're going to sing Kumbaya or something.
That's what I thought too.
And then what happened is I was brought to tears and I had chills. So it's the resonating with other people at the same tone. It's so powerful. So same thing with all of this. Get comfortable first on your own if you want. If you're really courageous, jump in there and don't worry about what anybody thinks, of course. But however it works for you, it works for you. So definitely give one of these a try, or consider perhaps joining a group. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. I thank you for joining us as always, and remember to be mindful.
Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you next week.
This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to other great shows. Visit our website, amindfulmoment.com, to access podcasts, scripts, and reading recommendations. A Mindful Moment is hosted by Teresa McKee and Melissa Sims. This podcast is produced by Work to Live Productions. Thank you for tuning in.